All right. He put this up on the screen.
Yes.
So I don't know if you want to read it.
Telling everybody that
I love it.
contracts from 1990.
You want me to, you can't. Well, you could sit down and.
I'll take this chair.
I know about everybody here.
Okay.
It's about most of my audience, I guess. Fuller. It's not terrorist.
Am I on? Good evening. It's a nice change in weather, but I hear it's going to start raining. So I think the drought is over. Okay, just briefly, my name's Bev Versteeg, and I'm the president of the League of Women Voters. And we're here tonight for the candidate forum for sheriff. We have Darren Batterson, Todd Caldwell, Jeff Layton, and Don Phillips. They will be given a 2-minute time frame in the beginning to explain who they are and what they want to do. Then we have questions. They'll get 1.5 minutes each to answer the questions. And then they'll have 2 minutes at the end to tell you why you should vote for them. Now, while we're talking about voting, this is going to be a different way of doing stuff this time because it is a special election and because this is my belief that it's probably costly to have everybody working all of the precincts. There's only going to be, I believe, 9 precincts open. Great Prairie AEA, Wapello County Courthouse, Bridgeview Center, Blakesburg City Hall, Agency Community Center, Chillicothe City Hall, Eddyville Library, Kirkville City Hall, and Eldon Library. You can vote at any of those spots. They'll have the computer so that no matter what precinct you normally vote in, you'll be able to vote wherever you're at when you find time. And I'm sure that it's going to be set up so that you can't vote in Eldon and then run over to Chillicothe and vote too. It'll all be connected. Voting is from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. And I believe that is all I need to tell you about the elections. So as always, League. Okay. I was reminded to tell you that there is early voting. Tomorrow is the last day that you can pick up the application for the early voting. And I believe the last day that you can turn in your ballot would be March 4th. But you can also go up early and the polls will be open at the courthouse, as they usually are. Okay. So the question that League has come up with is, gentlemen, we understand that there's usually only one deputy on duty per shift with some overlap between shifts. Oh, yeah, maybe I do want them to do their opening statements first. I'm sorry. Here.
All right, I guess I'm up. Hello, I'm Darren Batterson. I'm the only candidate up here tonight that is not currently a Wapello County deputy. I've been a police officer in the Tumwater for the last 20 years. I think not being a deputy gives me a different perspective. I was born and raised in Wapello County. My family's been here for over 100 years. I graduated from Cardinal School, as did my parents, my siblings, and my kids. I currently live near Blakesburg with my wife, Lisa, 12 dogs, 12 horses, and some cows. I'd like to see more deputies back in the rural areas, especially at Cardinal and Eddyville, at the schools before and after school to help with traffic. I do want to get more deputies. I think we need more. I'd also like to see an SRO that Cardinal and Eddyville could potentially share. I'm a big canine advocate. I'd love to get 1, if not 2 canines. Canines are a very useful tool and good to have a deputy, especially on night shift. Being from the police department, I'd like to bring some policies and procedures that I've been used to and accustomed to from that department, bring them over to the sheriff's department, maybe make things run more efficiently, put some more accountability back in the sheriff's department so we can get control of these criminals and better serve the victims of these crimes. I believe that if we could give some better schedules to the jails, we could help maybe keep staff, keep them happy, get their days off together, make things run more smoothly there. I'd also like to better utilize our reserves. We got a great core of reserves, and we could help schedule them, put them in some of these small towns that are contracted for police patrol. If we could get the reserves in there to take some of that time off the deputies so they could get back to their duties. With that, that's about it for my opening statement.
Okay, my name's Todd Caldwell, and I'm kind of going to say the opposite. I've been at the sheriff's department since I was a kid. 1990, I've been there 28 years. What makes me unique is I feel like I started at the bottom at the sheriff's department. So I was hired as a guard. There's no way to go but up. And through being promoted, I gained the position of jailer and dispatch. And then I was promoted again in 1994, and I've been a deputy sheriff for 24 years. With that, I think brings a lot of unique qualities as far as, you know, I'm not saying that I could step in right away and do everything that the jail staff do. I know that the things have changed a lot, but I have an understanding of what they do and what their responsibilities are. If I had to go down and dispatch, I'm pretty comfortable that I could do all right for 10 or 15 minutes anyway. One thing I want to bring up is through this whole election process, I've heard a lot of, I'm going to do this and I can do that and all this. And what I want to bring to this is more of a, we can do this and we can get this. You know, it's obvious that the sheriff's department's a little bit divided. We are all friends up here, but we're a little bit divided, obviously. And what the first thing I'd want to do day one is try to unite everybody at the sheriff's department and Officer Batterson. We all have good ideas. We're all have 20 plus years of experience. I think somebody said well over 100 years, the four of us. And I think if we all come together, I think that we could really help Wapello County. So I want to take the eye out of the sheriff and I want to make it all of us combined. So on March 6th, I want all of us to get together and I want all of us to come up with our unique qualities of where we think the sheriff department could go. With that in mind, I want us to be transparent and I want us to broaden our communication with our department. Okay.
I want to appreciate everybody coming out tonight. My name is Jeff Layton. I've worked with the Wapello County Sheriff's Department for 31 years. I'm a graduate from Iowa State University in 1980. From 1980 to 1988, I worked for the Department of Natural Resources until then, Sheriff Bud Irwin approached me about being hired on in the Sheriff's Department there. I've been a union steward down at the Sheriff's Office for over 30 years. I've worked with the jail staff. I've worked with the secretaries, the deputies in the union steward's capacity. We've drafted policies. We've done contracts throughout those 30 years, which we can be proud of because we've gained every year when we were doing those contracts there. I've been involved with every aspect of investigations in the Wapello County Sheriff's Department, everywhere from petty crimes all the way up to major murder cases. Know the insides and outs of the Sheriff's Office. I've been a sex crimes investigator for quite a few years there at the Sheriff's Office. Community involvement is very important to me. I'm involved in quite a few different organizations, the County Conservation Board since 2000. I've been on the Gothic Board, American Gothic Board down in Eldon for quite a few years. I was a founding member and a 30-year board member for Pheasants Forever, and I've been a hunter education instructor for almost that many years. I've been appointed to the Wellness Committee there in Wapello County. I believe that civil commitment needs to be fostered in the Sheriff's Department. We need to be going to the city councils, not just in Atumwa here, but all the surrounding communities. We need to find out what's going on with that, and also visit with the volunteer fire departments. We need to keep our ears open to all the citizens of Wapello County.
I want to thank the League of Women Voters for an opportunity for me to share my ideas here tonight. My name is Don Phillips. I've been with the Wapello County Sheriff's Office for 25 years. 16 and a half years I spent as a patrol deputy, and 2.5 years with the Drug Task Force as a drug investigator. Last 6 years I've been chief deputy, second in command at the Sheriff's Office, and currently interim sheriff. I've lived here for 29 years. I'm committed to this community, and I've dedicated my life to law enforcement and to keep the citizens of this county safe. School safety is a high priority of mine. I'm currently on the School Emergency Operations Planning Coalition for Wapello County with the Atumwa Police Department, Emergency Management, and area school districts. I've partnered with several Wapello County schools to provide specialized training against threats and hazards, including active shooter training. I've helped in coordinating the efforts of multi-jurisdictional agencies during the incident near Liberty School, which averted a major disaster for this community, I believe. I've been working with Cardinal School and the Board of Supervisors the last year to obtain a school resource officer for Cardinal School District. I will continue to work in obtaining a school resource officer for Eddyville. As sheriff, I intend to have a dedicated investigator who will focus on investigating the crimes of sexual assault and burglaries and to bring justice for the victims of violent and serious crimes. By having this investigator, it will allow deputies working patrol to continue to patrol and maintain a presence in helping to keep our citizens safe. Over the last few weeks, I've enjoyed meeting many people. I have been to city council members meetings, door to door in the community and rural area, and listening to their concerns. I'm here tonight to answer your questions and hear your concerns. Thank you.
Now I get to ask the question. Okay. Gentlemen, we understand that there is usually only one deputy on duty per shift with some overlap between shifts. We also understand there are duties that deputies do, such as serving papers and transporting for commitment hearings that could possibly leave rural residents without protection. If you believe a change in the level of staffing is required to provide for community safety and other mandated duties, how would you propose to fund those changes? Do you need me to read that again? Anybody? Okay.
We'll start with Mr. Gadd. We'll start with Mr. Gatterson.
Okay, thank you. It's kind of good timing because I was actually in that situation yesterday or Monday. I was on a transport bringing somebody from the hospital to the courthouse and was the only deputy working. Thank God I didn't get a call during that because it crossed my mind. I didn't know what I would do had I gotten a call. I think we're all going to agree that there's grants out there that we need to apply for and we need to get. I don't know that we're trying as hard as we can to get the grants. I also think that we need to build a better rapport with the Wapello County supervisors. We have a new supervisor and we need to get with him and build trust with him, but we also got to make everybody accountable, whether that's us at the head. I think the sheriff and the chief deputy need to field calls when staff is at a minimum. If we're backed up 2 or 3 calls, I feel like as the sheriff, I would need to go on the call. And if need to be, I wouldn't mind being on a different shift to fill in and make sure that we do have more than one deputy on at a time. As a sheriff, I want to be an active sheriff. I want to be a working sheriff. Also, we want to build the trust with the community. We want to let them know what we can do for them. And I want to be in the schools, like Darren said. But okay, go ahead.
Mr. Layton?
Okay.
First of all, before we ask the taxpayers to open their wallet, I'd like to, we need creative, effective, and efficient organization. We've got the good staff, we got a good facility, but we have to update our processes. We need to get lean with our ability to deliver services and prioritize and deploy our resources timely. One example of this is when we've got to keep our deputies on the road. That's all there is. They're serving papers. They're doing traffic grant investigations, and we got to leave those guys on the road. That means that we've got to have a lot of communications in the sheriff's office instead of pulling them off the road to do a transport or to come in citizens complaint. If we have people in the office that can field those calls, then we should leave that deputy on the road or the deputies on the road. We can't just be bringing him in to answer a simple question. If sometimes we have up to 3 certified officers in the office. If we streamline that process and use those people that are already in the office, we don't have to pull that deputy in. So we need to look at all the available things we do before we start hiring more staff. We need to, and this will be no cost to the citizens of Wapello County if we can streamline this process.
Thank you. I strongly believe we need more staff. A study was just completed last year where we were 96 out of 99 counties in the state for deputy to citizen ratio. Our calls of service have doubled in the last 10 years. These are the reasons I've worked the last 6 years to develop partnerships with school districts and communities in Wapello County. I propose that we continue to pursue contract patrol with these communities that are required by law to have law enforcement and don't. This will help pay for the salaries of additional deputies while increasing the patrol in these communities and will save the taxpayers money in the long run. We think we need to be thinking outside the box and find creative ways to develop these partnerships similar to the one that's been done with Cardinal School District. Thanks.
Having been through this already in the city, we were really short patrolmen. Being a union steward, one of the keys we took care of was we had a city councilman come and ride with us. We had the mayor come and ride with us. So we need to do the same thing here. We need to get the supervisors out in the cars. They need to ride, see what they're experiencing. You need to get the mayors from the small towns, let them ride. That's the best way you can see how short and how busy things are. You can talk about it, but till they actually get out and see it, it's hard. But we definitely got to utilize our federal grants, their state grants, federal grants, things that we can use to get these deputies on board now that we can pay for them later. Pay as it progresses, a little bit each year. Eventually, we'd have to cover the whole thing, but it gives us time to work that into the budget. Thank you.
Good evening. We will begin with the first question given to me. This is from Audrey McDowell. What is your experience with budget preparation? Please elaborate on the size of the budget and your specific involvement in the process.
Okay. With the budget of Wapello County Sheriff's Department, is that
Yes.
what she's talking about?
Yes.
Our budgets in general?
Oh, okay.
Okay, I've been involved with the County Conservation Board. We review our budget every year, and the director always approaches that and takes it to the Board of Supervisors. But the board members down at the County Conservation Board actually set in and help form the budget. We know what we're asking for. We're on a rotation with vehicles there that saves the County Conservation Board money. So when we're rotating those vehicles, we always know from year to year. The Board of Supervisors really like to know what we're going to be asking for, and they know down 2 to 3 years. So I've assisted in the budget for that. This year, we had a new lady at for the Gothic House. She's never done a budget before. We assisted her with that, and she came through with flying colors. She was able to propose that budget to the Board of Supervisors. They accepted that to her. She's never had any budget experience before, and this was the first year, and there wasn't any problem. The budget's always set usually. You pretty firm for the Gothic house, so she knew what we needed. We amended that to give her a little bit more for the Gothic house there, but the budget was pretty firm, and that's the same with the County Conservation Board.
The last 6 years being chief deputy, I've had worked on the budget with the county at the sheriff's office. Each year, we sat down and put the budget together, what we proposed, what we would like to have, and then each year we sat down and went through it line by line with the Board of Supervisors and the auditor. This last year was just a little over $3 million, the budget was. That's the size that it's a little bit larger coming up here in fiscal year 19 to 20. But that's what my involvement's been in each year, sitting down and then also managing that budget throughout the fiscal year. You know, making sure we don't overspend that. That's my involvement in budgets.
My only involvement with large budget was a police union where we dealt with basically just salaries and equipment for the police department. But it's multi-millions you're talking about with 40 officers. So we learned to budget there so we can get the most out of our officers, most out of their salaries, and the most out of their equipment. I haven't dealt with any of the undertakings of the upper echelon, but I've only dealt with the salaries. I've also ran multiple clubs. I'm currently president of one national club where we deal with the $75,000 budget each year. Thank you.
Yeah. My experience with the budget would go back to when I was a reserve officer from 1990 to 94. I was a treasury secretary, and I actually went back 4 years because nobody had really done the budget at that point. So I went back 4 years in order to balance everything out. I have been in Don's office several times when he's discussed the budget with me and asked my ideas and stuff like that. I haven't done the budget for the Wapello County Sheriff yet, but I do know that every single task that I'm given, I try to do it with the most professional way I can. And I try to be, like with any technology that we get or anything like that, I try to know it inside and out, and I try to get the most out of it I can. And I do know with the budget that we want to find out the areas that we actually are wasting some money and maybe put it into another area. And I feel like for the most part, we have the numbers in front of us and we just got to put them in the right places.
With going onward. This is from Mark Miller. Please elaborate on your experience preparing budgets, tracking it throughout the year, and planning for the next year's budget.
Well, it's kind of similar to what I just answered. You know, each year we have to look forward to what we might need equipment-wise, whether it's vehicles or other miscellaneous equipment. So, you know, we take and study that throughout the year. So when we start preparing the budget in December, we have a good idea of what our needs are coming up in the fiscal year, whatever it might be, starting in July. So we've done that stuff. I've done that stuff the last 6 years, and we have to manage that budget throughout the year because you can't go over what you've been budgeted for the year. So that's, I feel like I'm missing a portion of the question. Am I?
Other than if there's additional money in the coming years, I think the question was, how would you plan for the next year's budget? Does that cover the issue?
So yeah, that's how we cover it. Is we kind of try to estimate as to what we're going to need each year, and then when we sit down with the Board of Supervisors, we go through that. Sometimes those things get cut, sometimes they don't. So that's how we've prepared for it.
Mr. Patterson.
I guess the question you brought up is kind of a little bit like farming. I help my father-in-law with his cattle. We sit down every year, every month, sometimes twice a week, figure out what we can spend, what we need for feed, what we got to sell, what we got to fix. And that comes up monthly. Seems like we spend more than we make, but that's part of the issue. But when you're talking yearly on the sheriff's department, you can set those budgets, give yourself some wiggle room, allow yourself the equipment, allow yourself a car, allow yourself a deputy if need be. You just have to budget that in. Anybody that's good at math knows you can wiggle numbers around and make them work. That's what we did on the union to get the big wage. They gave us 2%. We didn't take the 2% across the board. We put the 2%, that money, and put it where our officers were to make the most benefit out of them.
Okay, I'm just going to address the fact that you always got to be looking ahead. You can't just go by 1 month at a time, but you got to know what you're going to need in the future. You know, how many vehicles you're going to need at the end of the year, how much equipment. The one thing that I am big on is I am big on equipment. I think that we need more training and stuff like that. So I think the more that you can save at the front, the more you can spend towards the end of it if you can save it. Like I said, you need to make sure that if you know you're going to need a vehicle coming up, that you got the money in the budget for that. That's it.
Mr. Layton.
On the County Conservation Board, we have quarterly reports. So we know what we're doing throughout the year, how much money we've spent, how much we have to spend toward the end of that fiscal year. If we've got some left over, then we can do the special projects that we have asked about for throughout the year. We don't like to give much money back at the County Conservation Board, but and we try to use it right down to the last dime. So those quarterly reports come in real handy for us, knowing where we're at and how that money is spent. If we got a big project coming up, we might work on that project a little bit one year and then try to do the same thing at the end of the next year there. So we are able to do that. The money in our budget, not quite as much as the sheriff's office, but we do have quite a little bit. Like I said, we rotate our vehicles, make sure we have a new vehicle that's in the budget for every year. That way we don't have to scrimp and not have a good vehicle. We also purchase a lot of big equipment there, and that's where we need to save and save our money from the next year and try to purchase those big ticket items.
The next question is from Tracy Caldwell. What are your future plans for the Sheriff's Department to keep up with technology and getting information to the public when needed?
The schools we go to, we get a lot of free schools. That's where we get a lot of our technology. And you just got to apply for them classes, get on board, send officers up to them. You utilize those classes. There's always new technology. I'm sure we've all seen the body cams. I don't know, we don't have any yet, but that's technology is always improving. But to stay focused on it, you've got to get to those classes. You got to get those officers up to the training. They come back with the training, then they can train their other officers in the department. What was the second part to that?
Good question. How would you get the information out to the public when it is needed?
When it is needed, we have great tools already. Everybody's on Facebook, I think. Keep the Facebook pages open. They're a great tool for us solving crimes. Public's a great help. I don't think we utilize it enough. The local TV channel, getting stuff out on there, newspaper, the online news. All that are great tools to keep in contact with the public.
Mr. Caldwell.
I think you got to always be looking forward in technology. If you're doing what everybody else is doing, then I feel like you're behind. It's one thing that I do preach at the department now, and I have even talked to Chief Deputy Phillips about getting a Facebook page open. there's a lot of advantages that I feel like, you know, if there is a suspicious person in the area, if there's somebody going around, you know, casing places out, it's a direct way for somebody to let us know. And it's a direct way for us to let the entire community know about what's going on. We have a big problem right now with the senior citizens and on getting calls from people trying to get money from them. If we know of a scam or something like that, we can post it on Facebook and we can let everybody know. So, you know, if you don't have Facebook, you know somebody that does, a family member or something like that, that can get that to you. It's also a direct way to contact the sheriff. If I was a sheriff, I would be the one responsible for the Facebook page. So if you instant message somebody at the sheriff's department, I'm going to be the one that picks up the instant message and I'm going to message you directly back. So I think Facebook is the way to go.
Mr. Layton?
Yeah, technologies moves at a very quick pace there. And I never had Facebook before this election, and it's a wonderful tool. It's amazing. There's a lot of people that use that Facebook page. The media is calling constantly because of the Facebook page. We have to use that, but we also have to monitor that very carefully. There can only be one or two people that put that in there. As a sheriff, I would be constantly updating that Facebook page. It doesn't matter if it's weather, road conditions, scams. It's a very valuable tool. But we also have to reach out to the older folks that don't use Facebook, and that's where we have to cooperate with news media and have them as our friends. If we've got scams that are going out, not everybody's on Facebook, but we can use our news media or radio media to inform the citizens that we're having problems out in the county there. Or if we're looking for suspicious vehicles, it's amazing that we can get that information out there.
I would agree. I think Facebook and social media is a great way to reach the public. Also, I have a great working relationship with the news media currently. Each incident that takes place that's newsworthy, we send it out to the media, and that's been something I've worked on the last 6 years. I'm not opposed to Facebook, like I said. I think it's a great tool. It can get that information out there quickly to a lot of people. You know, there's some concerns I have with Facebook. You know, I don't want it to be a negative thing. I want it to be a positive thing, and we'll have to figure out how we can lock that down to where it's not a bunch of negative stuff being posted on there. We need to have positive things being said. So I'm not opposed to it. I'm open to new ideas and good ideas. So I think it'd be great to have that so we can get information out quickly. So thank you.
This question is from Scott Adams. What type of administrative experience do you have that qualifies you for this job? The question is about administrative experience that qualifies you to be sheriff.
Okay. So the way it works at the sheriff's department, if you're a deputy and you work weekends or you work nights, you're automatically an administrator. You're automatically in charge of people that are in the jail and the dispatchers. So with that being said, I worked nights for 18 years. So I was somewhat of an administrator over the staff during that time. And even since in the last 10 years, I've worked weekends, which in the weekends you're in charge of the entire staff. So I would say in a roundabout way, I've been an administrator for 28 years.
Mr. Lane?
The administration, like Todd mentioned, when we're working by ourselves, we administrate. We're responsible for the jail. We're the acting sheriff at that time. We have to make a lot of decisions when the sheriff chief deputy is not around. And also, as administrator on the boards there, we administrate this to the staff and the director there. We have to be budget minded. We have to treat the staff with respect. We need to make sure what's going on and it's being accomplished. So as an administrator, I think we administrate when we're by ourselves in our own shifts during their sheriff's office.
For the last 6 years, I've been an administrator at the sheriff's office with being chief deputy. The last 2 months or month and a half, I've been interim sheriff. You know, those are the qualifications that I bring in managing a $3 million budget, overseeing jail operations with over 100 inmates, supervising deputies, jail staff, jail support staff, and the front office. So I think I'm plenty qualified to be sheriff of this county. Thanks.
As the chief union steward for 18 years, I was basically the administrator over our contracts. As with any organization, there's only so many administrators can be in any position. I've been an administrator over my clubs I've told you about, where we put on large events and had thousands of people attend. And I've managed all that. I'm a great management guy for accounts, dollars. I went to college just for that. 4.0 GPA. One thing I can do is learn. If I don't know it, I know how to learn.
The following question is from Ron Harms. It's asking what your stance is on the following issues, and there are 4 of them. First one is immigration. Second one is sanctuary cities. Third one is working with ICE. And the fourth one is the Second Amendment.
Well, the first one is immigration. We are chosen the sheriff's department. We are law enforcement. We don't make the laws. So whatever the population of Wapello County, they have elected us. If I'm the sheriff, we will follow the rules and regulations of the immigration. The second part of that is a sanctuary city. You know, that's an opinion of other people, not just us. Like I said, we're law enforcement. We enforce the law to the letter. We don't have an opinion there, but we do as the citizens of Wapello County ask us to do, and that's to enforce their laws. We will work with other law enforcement agencies, ICE or whoever we need to work with. We have to work with all law enforcement officers throughout the United States if they come in. If ICE asks us to do things and it's law abiding, then we're going to work with them. Second Amendment rights is I agree that people ought to own firearms, and we can keep them in our residences there, and we got the right to bear arms.
With immigration, there's a state law that was passed last year that requires local governments to work with immigration and ICE. So it's something we have to do as a result of that law that was passed last year. It's otherwise it could cost some federal funding to the county. As a sanctuary city, I think that was something that was put on us several years ago as a result of a Supreme Court ruling that came out of California about, they told us we needed to not be doing the detainers on the immigration because it was found to be unlawful. So I think that's why we ended up getting tagged with sanctuary cities. As working with ICE, we work with them closely each and every day. Every day they call the sheriff's office and ask for the list of our jail people we have the inmates we have in jail. And they go through that. If they want to talk to somebody, we allow them to talk to them. As to the Second Amendment, I'm a believer in the Second Amendment. We have the right to bear arms. And I think that that was done years ago, obviously, and I believe in it.
We were all sworn to uphold the Constitution, and everything you've said is the Constitution. We will enforce immigration. That's the law. That's what we have to do. Working with ICE, as he has already said, it's changed a lot in the last few years. We couldn't get any cooperation with ICE a few years ago, but as the president changed, all the rules change. So we have to change with the rules. We'll follow the rules. The Second Amendment, I've had guns my whole life. I think everybody ought to have guns. It's the only protection you have in your house, in your car. And I hope everybody that can get a gun should get a gun legally.
Okay, I'm for legal immigration. I'm against illegal immigration. I have make no qualms about that. I'm also against sanctuary cities. We are a sanctuary county, like Don said. In order to hold somebody without any other charges, it would have to be a federal judge to sign off on that. As far as ICE goes, I think that we should get a better relationship with ICE. I think it's something that we could work on. And if they have an idea for how we could keep people or how we could help them make sure that criminals that are here illegally could be locked up and be detained for them, then I would be all for hearing their ideas. And I would welcome that. Like the rest of them here said, the Second Amendment is a right that we all should have, and totally agree with it.
This question is from Shirley Stacy. What are your thoughts on having the same deputy assigned to patrol, for instance, Eldon, Agency, and Cardinal, to establish consistency in the community, to know the citizens, to know the problems and the city ordinances? And the same could be said for Eddyville and Kirkville. These communities pay to have Wapello County police them. And I believe the question is, what do you think of the policy of having the same deputy assigned to specific communities? Is that right?
So starting in July, potentially, there's going to be a school resource officer in Eldon at the Cardinal School. I've, through that agreement with the school district, I've asked them to allow us to have the deputy respond to any emergencies within the Agency, Eldon, or Washington Township area. So they can respond to that emergency, be there for backup for that deputy that's working. They're not going to be the primary deputy making any arrest or working any investigation with that particular call if they're called away from the school. I want the deputy working patrol and hopefully that investigator, if there's any investigation, to go on. Also, I asked Cardinal School District in this agreement and partnership we've done is if they can have that deputy, allow that deputy 1 hour a day to leave the school grounds and go to Agency and or Eldon for 1 hour each time on each day that they're there at the school to patrol those school or those communities. And that will, I believe that just a mere presence of a deputy in those communities deter crime. So that's kind of the agreement we've worked out with Cardinal School District that I believe will start July 1st.
Mr. Bass.
Being an SRO, I totally agree having an officer in the school is a plus. The relationships you build last forever. But you're talking about two different sides of the spectrum there with Agency and Eddyville being so far apart because you can't, if you're going to share an SRO, because we only got SRO possible in one school. But the deputies need to make these rural towns a priority. They need to stop in these towns, get out, walk around. We make regular stops in the schools still today. Get in, walk around, talk to the kids, talk to the staff. That's how you make relationships. You build on those relationships. And when those kids and those students and teachers start trusting you, that's when you get the information you need. But you got to be influxed in the city. You got deputies working 3 shifts. There's places to stop in each town where they can go in and hang out and talk to people when they're not on calls. You got to build that rural relationship.
Mr. Caldwell.
I agree with Darren that you got to build the real relationships. I know her very well. We talk almost on a daily basis, and I feel like that we could improve on that. I feel like Don says, with an investigator, I think it would free the deputies up really to go to the smaller communities and get more of a rapport with them. Just like Shirley, I know people in Eddyville and I know people in Blakesburg. I'm very good friends with the people that own the Blakesburg C-store. I talk to them quite a bit. The same with the agency. So I think Shirley's got a good idea. The deputies get more free time. They go in there and they build more of a relationship. And I try to do that now. And I know with an investigator and more deputies on duty that I could do even a better job of that. And I would encourage all the deputies to get to know the people that they're serving.
Mr. Layton.
That's a very good policy, I believe, Shirley. We get to know the townspeople. We get to know who's in town, who's comes out. It's amazing the amount of information the local people can provide us. Going through doing senior meals and things like that. It's just a wealth of information that you obtain when you go to those different places. And you get to know the people well. They start to trust you, and then they start to give you the information. As a proactive sheriff, that's what we have to do, is be proactive. Nip it in the bud before anything gets started. If somebody new comes into town and they're going to be a problem, we need to get that problem taken care of before it starts to fester, because we've all seen these people moving into these towns. We've seen the problem they cause. They can be 90% of our calls until they get moved down the road there. So it'd be a very good policy to get to know the townspeople real well, and to be proactive. As a working sheriff, that is one of my main goals, is to get to know the people in towns, to come to the city council meetings, and the fire departments. And we learn a lot of stuff when we get around to the towns and talking to the locals who see and hear everything. They've got to be our eyes and ears to those towns, and every town's got the eyes and ears, and we just need to make sure we get to every town and be proactive about that.
The next question is from, I believe, Colton Snakenberg. Other than your years of service with the police department, both as a school officer and street cop, how do you think this strengthens your confidence over the other candidates? I would assume this question is aimed at Mr. Batterson. Our policy is that each of the candidates will be able to answer a question about when you've been a street cop. How has that strengthened your confidence?
Well, I would tell you, being in the school with the kids for so long, it's just made working the streets extremely easy. I've never been in a fight in 21 years. I've had to restrain people, but I've never been in a fist fight with anybody. I can take people to jail just by talking to them. People know me. They call me my name. I'm officer friendly. I wave at everybody. I believe everybody deserves respect, and I give it to them unless they give me reason not to. And when you give people respect, you get respect back. And I believe that follows through in the leadership role. People that work for you will respect you if you respect them. If you allow them to voice their opinion, talk about their ideas, you're going to get more respect out of them. And I believe everybody is important.
Mr. Caldwell.
Well, I'm a little more unfortunate than Darren. I've been in a few fist fights, but anyone that knows me knows that I try to talk my way out of it. And I've been a defensive tactics instructor for 21 years. So I'm a candidate that's had children at home for 31 years. So I think I kind of fit that role as well. I'm the only candidate up here that's got 3 kids under the age of 8 at home right now. So I think I got the kid thing all figured out. But with that, I'll go ahead and go to Jeff.
Okay. Could you ask the question one more time?
Sure. Essentially, do your years with the sheriff's department, both as an officer and a street officer, how do you think this strengthens your confidence relative to the other candidates?
Well, after 31 years, and I've been on the road for that all 31 years, and we investigate a wide variety of crimes, everything from petty crimes all the way up to Class A felonies, the murders and stuff like that. So it makes you more well-rounded. You get to know the people and out on the streets. You get to know who should be where. So that gets you out of the office, gets you patrolling, gets you to know if something's happening in Eldon, if there's people that don't belong there. So as a street cop, that gets you out, get you talking to people. And if I get elected sheriff, I want to be a working sheriff to get around to those different places also. So and keep toned in traffic investigations and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to lose that by just sitting behind a desk and not responding to calls.
I think by working the road and gaining that confidence by dealing with people on a regular basis provides you that confidence to run the sheriff's office. I think, you know, when you start at the beginning, at the bottom, and work your way up, I think that's provides you a lot of confidence also. I think that when a person deals with people on a regular basis and talking with them, I think that's another aspect that works well for you and giving you the confidence to deal with this job and talking to people. So I guess I think you have to start at the bottom to work your way up.
This question is from Presley Caldwell. Regarding the ALICE trainings that occur in the schools under the current administration, how do you feel the communication or chain of command is for the daytime officers that would ultimately be responding? Specifically, I'm assuming ALICE training within the sheriff's department. If somebody wants to define ALICE training, that would be okay.
Do you want to read it again, please?
Sure. Regarding the ALICE, ALICE, ALICE trainings that occur in the schools under the current administration, how do you feel the communication chain of command is for the daytime officers that would ultimately be responding? Specifically training within the sheriff's department.
Okay, so what she's talking about, I'm sure, is the training that goes on in the schools in case there is a mass casualty or active shooter situation. And I'm judging, since it's my daughter, that she's heard me talk about this before, I guess. So, and my opinion is that when the training is available, we need to get the actual day deputies who are working and who would be working during this scenario to the active shooter training. I know that we've pulled some resources off of nights to go to it and a couple day deputies as well. But I think the one thing that we're missing the mark on is when we do this training, we need to come back and we need to let the other deputies know that weren't at the training what we learned and, you know, a better and more effective way to do it. I know right now that we have a Blue Point notification that we get if somebody sets off an alarm at the school. None of the deputies I've talked to know what we're supposed to do once we get that Blue Point notification. We get it off duty and on duty. So we need to do a better job of communication in order to know what is expected of each deputy. And in the training, we need to know, you know, what we learned, what we did well, and what we didn't do well. And I don't think it's being communicated to all the deputies.
Mr. Layton?
Yeah, communication is a big problem. I also am a daytime deputy. Those daytime deputies will probably be the ones responding to if we unfortunately ever have a problem in the schools there. I believe that the daytime deputies should be the ones going to the schools, learning the schools inside out, because we will probably be the ones responsible for getting to those. With a school resource officer down in Eldon, that's gonna help out, but we could still be clear up at Eddyville to respond clear down to Eldon for a shooting of some sort there. So yeah, I believe training for all deputies, it needs to happen. That's a problem. We don't have the training there. We need to step up our training program.
Mr. Phillips.
So what ALICE stands for is Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evade. It's a program that was developed several years ago, and it's what we teach at the school systems in Wapello County. You know, it'd be nice if we could close the office and send everybody to training every time, you know, but it's not available to us to do that. We try to spread it out and send people to the training that is available. In the end of March, there's 3 deputies, I believe it's 3 or 4 deputies going to some training on an active shooter here in Ottumwa. So the stuff's available. It's just, it doesn't come around very often and can't get sent out to everybody to attend. We have to work the road, and we have to take care of a jail, and we have other responsibilities, but we need to, I would agree, it'd be great if everybody can attend when we do have those trainings, but it's not possible for everybody to attend.
Mr. Patterson.
I will tell you that ALICE is a step, 10 steps above what we used to do, where the kids hid in the corner and bowed their heads and prayed nobody come in and find them. In this training, they actually learn to fight back. The kids actually fight back. But this is a multi-jurisdictional training, because it's never going to be just a deputy responding to a school shooting. Everybody is coming. And when you do these ALICE trainings, that's what they try to do, is you need to get multiple jurisdictions at the same school to train. But it can't be just the daytime deputies. As Leighton said, it's got to be about all of them, because you never know when somebody's on vacation. You never know when you're going to have somebody covering a different shift. You never know when somebody's working overtime. School shootings don't happen on a schedule. It could be at an athletic event, could be at the football game at night. So you need to involve everybody you can. If it can't happen on one day, try to schedule multiple days. But you need to get everybody involved in as many jurisdictions as you can, just like the shooting we had here this summer. You know, every sheriff's department, every police department within 30 miles was here. Over 100 officers. That's what you're going to have at a school shooting. And then you're going to have radio communication problems, because we can't all talk to each other on the same radio. So we need to learn how to fight through those. And that's part of the training.
Shirley Stacy had another question. The Courier police log reads that most of your arrests are made at the law center. Most of your arrests are made at the law center. Why is this?
Okay. I believe what's happening is we're bringing these people in from out of town. If it's a transport, that if they're up in Des Moines, we bring them down. At the law center is where we read the warrant to them. And so then in that box, we'll put 330 West 2nd. So that's where the warrant's been read. They're not being arrested there. We do have some people. We had a guy just turn himself in the other day, and that arrest would have been made there. But a lot of these are warrants that are being brought in, and then the deputy or whoever reads the warrant to him is putting the location of the arrest would be 330 West 2nd. So it's not that we're arresting everybody there. That's where the warrants are coming, or the inmates coming in by police officer or deputy, and the warrants are being read there.
I guess I would agree with Jeff on that. They're not everybody's being arrested there. Those are where the warrants are being read, and that's what they're putting down as an address. It could be the person that's sending this stuff off to the Courier for the police blotter that doesn't have the information available because the officer never put it in there. It could be that reason. You know, it's a clerical issue that's, I've asked myself the same question, so.
Mr. Patterson.
I would agree with those two. Generally, it's just somebody that's already in jail and a warrant comes down for them and you just serving the warrant on them. They're not going anywhere. They're already there.
I don't have anything else to add.
If there are no more questions from the audience, League is going to ask one more question. There's been a great deal of information in the media all over the country about the expanding use of opioids and the risk to the users and the possible life-saving intervention by officers with the use of Narcan. Could each of you address what you believe about the status of opioid use in Wapello County and whether or not you have enough supplies of the drug that can make a difference?
Unfortunately, we don't have the Narcan in our vehicles. It's something that was brought back to me from one of the deputies that attended a conference, and it has not been purchased. It's a growing epidemic in our country. It's starting to be on the rise here in our community. We've had, unfortunately, some deaths that have occurred as a result of that, and we've had some people who, fortunately, have been brought back from their use of the drug because of Narcan. So that's one of the things I think that we need to have available, is that in our vehicles. So I believe we should get it. That's all I have.
I will tell you, in the sergeant's office, we've got, I don't know, 15, 20 boxes. There ain't any in the cars. And as far as I know, none of us have been trained how to use it. So we do have it. We haven't accomplished the training for it yet. But it's kind of at the same time, it's a wonderful drug, but it's also a sore spot that's free. And then we've got people that can't get free medications that need it.
Yeah, I think it's a growing epidemic, and I think that March 6th, it should be a priority that we get that in each squad car, because it's only going to take one officer touching the wrong thing to cause a death, and then everybody will have it. And I'm pretty confident, no matter who wins here, that they will make that a priority.
Yeah, opioids are a big epidemic. We hear about it. It makes the news media quite a little bit there. The Narcan, we need to take a look at that and see and be trained on it. We don't need to just be putting it in everybody's car without getting trained appropriately. And we need to make sure that that is the way we want to handle those situations, where none of us are trained really being for medical. So we need some good training. We need to be sure that that is our proper source or the proper way of handling those type of situations.
We have another question from Miguel Torres. How do you feel about jail overcrowding? How do you feel about jail overcrowding? Mr. Torres didn't ask, but we will ask, what do you propose to do if there is jail overcrowding?
I don't think it's a matter of what, if there's jail overcrowding. They're overcrowded every day. That's the vicious catch and release program we run. All of us know we arrest people. 5 minutes later, we watch them walking down the street because we got nowhere to put them. Eventually, in Wapello County, we're going to have to add on to the jail. We're going to have to make it bigger. We don't have anywhere to keep the criminals now. So that's just a vicious cycle. We arrest them, they go back out, they reoffend. Or the judge releases them on their promise to appear. They never appear. And then we got 1,000 failure to appear warrants in Wapello County. So it seems like all we do is continually catch, release, catch, release. We got to have somewhere to put them. somewhere we can keep them for a while longer, put a consequence to the crimes. So sometime in the next future, we're going to have to look at adding on.
Mr. Caldwell.
Okay, yeah, I've actually addressed that with a lot of the jail staff that we have now. And, you know, it's twofold. One, we have the jail overcrowdedness, and it's a tax on our employees. Not only are there so many of them to our employee, but we're having to house like suicidal females in the intake, which is putting a lot more of a burden on intake, and it's causing them not to be able to do their jobs quite as effectively. So I think the one thing that the jail staff have told me repeatedly is that we need more space. Not only do we have over 100 inmates per day, but over 85 of them are charged with felonies. So these are serious charges that are on these people. There's only two choices. We can either let them go, or we can build a bigger jail, and letting them go is not a option in my opinion. So we need to find a way to add on to our jail. It was designed to add on to, and we need to do it.
Mr. Layton.
Jail overcrowding has been a problem for quite some time. We built that jail in 2000. It's a 19-year-old facility. As of today, we were housing 6 inmates down in the Davis County jail for $50 a day. That's $300 a day that we're given to Davis County, and that adds up to about $109,500 a year if we house 6 inmates every day down in Davis County, building them a new jail. So we do have to have a consideration of expanding our jail. I know it's going to be a big time-consuming thing. It's going to be an expensive thing. But if we continue at this rate, we're going to be just building a new jail for Davis County down there. If we started today, it's going to take up to 3 to 5 years to complete that. But what do? We need to start turning some of these people around if we possibly can. Working with the county attorney, if we can get people out of there at a quicker pace, that would be great for we don't have to be spending. But that's an incredible amount of money that we're sending down to Davis County every day for those inmates.
I agree that the overcrowding at the jail is an issue. A couple of years ago, we brought it up to the supervisors about thinking about expanding the facility. The county's purchased the ground across the street from the law center, where next to the CETA building, for future expansion. I think it's one of those things that may happen one day, but I think it's kind of, I think we need to be a little bit more better with the taxpayers' money. We budgeted $60,000 for next year to house people in Davis County. We need to give Mr. Nuff the opportunity to see if he's able to speed these folks along and see if that comes about. If we add on to the jail, it's going to, additional 6 staff is going to, 5 to 6 staff are going to be hired, and it's going to be between $200,000 and $240,000 to pay for the salaries. And that don't include the benefits and stuff that goes with it. Also gas, electric, and water at this place also have to pay for the building of this facility. I'm not saying it's something we ain't going to have to do in the future, but I think there's some other things we need to work on, and I think it's better for the taxpayers in the way it's being done currently.
I think what we will do in the interest of time, I believe the questions have been asked. We'll begin with closing statements. You each have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. Who do you want to begin? Who should begin?
Mr. Caldwell.
Okay. I just want to reiterate what I said in my opening statements, that I think no matter who wins on March 5th, I think we owe it to the community for all of us to come together and all of us give the ideas that we have. And I know that no matter who wins, that the sheriff is going to be receptive of those ideas. You know, I think we need to get as much out of training as we can. I know that every time I go to a defensive tactics instructor or taser instructor class, when they ask about training, everyone in the room has more training per year than the Wapello County Sheriff's Department, and it's because of funds. And I don't think that it's fair, you know, for us as deputies, administration, and I don't think it's fair for the Wapello County citizens. I think we need to find money in our budget. I've been doing defensive tactics for 21 years. Not one time have I give a class for other deputies in our department to recertify or, hone their skills. The techniques and stuff are always changing, and we need to change with it. I know that we're all friends up here, and I know no matter what happens, that we're going to come together and Wapello County is going to benefit from it, and have all the confidence in the world that no matter who wins, that's what's going to happen.
Mr. Layton?
I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I believe as sheriff, we need to evaluate the current state of the department. We must determine what needs and wants we need before anything else. We need to get lean in our operation, make the best judgments for the citizens of Wapello County. We need to start doing processes that no longer make sense or are very wasteful, bringing the deputies in off of the streets to serve maybe a paper or to talk to citizens when we've got 2, maybe 3 people already in the department there that can fully capable take care of that. Keep the deputies out in the streets there. We've got a big lack of communications there. We've got to have more communications. Very little communication trickles down. There's certain people that get the communication, but not everybody gets gets talked to about that. We must prioritize and deploy our resources timely. We've got body cams that's been sitting on the shelf for a year that's never been a priority. They just sit there. That's for the citizens of our protection and for the citizens of Wapello County, those body cams. There's no reason that's not a priority. And if there's a policy that needs to be written, I'll be the first one to help make a policy. If that's what's keeping those body cams off the street there. But what are we waiting for with the body cams? So we need to prioritize and deploy our resources in a timely manner. At a cost to no taxpayers is utilizing the deputies to full potential, keeping them on the streets, keeping them out where they need to be. We also need to be protecting our jailers in the jail there. I've heard many times lack of communication down there, and that's a very dangerous situation that we need to take care of immediately.
Mr. Phillips?
Thank you. For the past 6 years, I've been in formal leadership role at the sheriff's office as chief deputy. The position of sheriff is extremely important for our community and is not a role just for anyone. This role could be overwhelming to someone without having the administrative knowledge and experience that I have. If elected, I can hit the ground running on day one. There are many aspects of being Wapello County Sheriff, including the managing of a $3 million budget, 11 deputies, correctional officers, dispatchers, office and jail support staff, as well as over 100 inmates a day. In my 6 years as chief deputy, I've worked hard to increase the sheriff's revenue so we could add 2 deputies and 2 full-time correctional officers. This was done to increase public safety and maintain the safety of our officers in the jail, as well as the deputies on the street. I have increased efficiency within the department by obtaining in-car computer systems through grant money so that the deputies could stay out on patrol in these communities in the rural area, rather than having them come back to the office and write their reports there. I have increased public relations by continually having the sheriff's office participate in public events like Fly Iowa, Kid Fest, and 4-H Expo, and by increasing the amount of press releases issued to our news medias. I've written multiple grants for needed safety equipment and to help keep us up to date with technology and not spending taxpayer dollars. I'm here to serve Wapello County and answer to the citizens. I will continue to go to city council meetings and be in each community and in the rural area to listen to citizens. Thank you.
Public safety is the #1 priority of any law enforcement. And I believe we need to get our deputies back into the rural communities, back where they can be seen. You've heard several guys up here tonight already say it. To see them there is a deterrent. They don't even have to do anything. They just got to be there. You got to see them. You can't only see them when you need them. You got to see them sometimes when you don't need them. They say 2 years experience on the Tacoma Police Department qualifies as 10 years everywhere else, because we lose multiple officers to Des Moines just on that phase alone. Leadership role comes in many different shapes and forms. I've led many different things. I've also followed many different leaders. Part of being a good follower and a good leader is you learn, you listen, you see what needs to be fixed and you fix it. We need to prioritize. I think Leighton said it just a couple minutes ago. We need to prioritize and get more effective with what we already got. What we can talk all we want about what we want to get, but what we got is what we got. We need to be effective with it. Increase our efficiency, update policies, procedures, change scheduling if you need to, but make things more effective. Apply for those grants, those loans, that federal funding to get more deputies out here to help us get those SROs, those K-9s, those things we need. Those are things we got to do to keep rolling, keep the ball moving, be more effective. And I will agree with all of us. I don't care who you vote for. Every one of us can do the job, but most importantly, you need to get out and vote.
On those wise words, we will call this forum to a close. We would like to remind everyone that before you go to vote for your choice of sheriff on the 5th of March, on the 2nd of March on Saturday, the League of Women Voters and others in the community will be sponsoring a legislative forum that will begin at 9:30 in the morning. It will be at the Southern Iowa Mental Health Center, which is on Albia Road, 1527 Albia Road to be exact. That's when the people that we all elected to the Iowa legislature come and meet, and we have a chance to ask them questions about what they voted on and didn't vote on. So you are cordially invited to attend that, and then be sure that sometime between now and March 2nd, you vote for one of these gentlemen. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. You're a part of democracy when you are here saying that you're listening to them and you're going to vote, I hope. By the way, if someone in your family or your friends is not registered to vote, they can vote at the polls when they go. What did I say? I'm sorry, you can register when you go to vote.